Good morning. Certainly a pleasure to get to see all of you folks here and to be here in Nashville. Everybody has to have a disclaimer. So my disclaimer is I'm not being paid by anyone to make any statements. I am a U.S. combat veteran who took an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I am exercising my First Amendment right to freedom of speech. First of all, I want to publicly and profusely thank all of the men and women in uniform who have put their plans on hold and their lives on the line to help people in foreign lands taste the freedom that we take for granted. And a special thank you to the families waiting for their loved ones to return home. Your support is immeasurable. For anyone who is a veteran, or who has family members serving in the military, would you please stand? And I salute you. Thank you. H.R. 3200. I believe it was about July 22nd that Mr. Obama said, "This is not a Trojan horse." And how do you tell when the man is lying? When his lips move. This is not about health care. This is about control. And one of our illustrious directors, Dr. Curtis Kane, said, "Getting people to quibble over the details instead of rejecting the whole thing is an old communist ploy. Any government interference in medicine is unconstitutional." Investor's Business Daily, September 22nd, Mr. John Gasky said, "Health reform is just a subterfuge. The dream is a democratic dictatorship. True reform would permit interstate insurance competition, medical savings accounts, tort reform, and tax credits. And we should be able to have all of those, and all of that would fit on one page, not 1,018 pages." And then he goes on to say, "This is it, America. It is about survival of our nation." And if you haven't figured that out, then you came to the right place. I think by the time we're through, you'll get that idea. Let's talk about the historical record. America was built on Christian principles. The Founding Fathers believed that a widespread faith in God was the true source of America's greatness. Today, there is war against Christianity by our own government, the media, educational institutions, and radical Islam. Will America survive as a free nation? We have to ask ourselves that question. Freedom didn't just happen. In 1756, 20 years before the Declaration of Independence, John Adams wrote, "Suppose a nation in some distant region should take the Bible for their only law book, and every member should regulate his conduct by the precepts there exhibited. What a paradise would this region be?" The Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson in 1781 said, "God who gave us life gave us liberty, and can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are a gift of God, that they are not to be violated, but with His wrath. Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that His justice cannot sleep forever." At the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin said, "We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without this concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. George Washington proclaimed a national day of prayer and thanksgiving, saying, "It is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey His will, to be grateful for His benefits, and to humbly implore His protection and favor." Daniel Webster, 1821, said, "If we abide by the principles taught in the Bible, our country will go on prospering and to prosper. But if we and our posterity neglect its instructions and authority, no man can tell how sudden a catastrophe may overwhelm us and bury all our glory in profound obscurity." Is that prophetic? Abraham Lincoln, declaring a national day of prayer and fasting. "It is fit and becoming in all people at all times to acknowledge and revere the supreme government of God, to bow in humble submission to His chastisement, to confess and deplore their sins and transgressions in the full conviction that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and to pray for the pardon of their past offenses." The U.S. Supreme Court, 1892. "Our laws and our institutions must necessarily be based upon the teachings of the Redeemer of mankind. It is impossible that it should be otherwise. And in this sense and to this extent, our civilization and our institutions are emphatically Christian." Did you hear somebody say recently, we are not a Christian nation? A little closer to our time, Leo Alexander in 1949 wrote in the New England Journal of Medicine, "The subtle shift in attitude that led to the horrors of the concentration camps from small beginnings that perverted the values of an entire society, showing the consequences of disbelief in the sanctity of human life and the paramount importance of morality in politics." Alexander talked about the subtle steps in changing physician ethics, which started with acceptance that there is such a thing as a life not worthy of being lived. The smallest step was the attitude toward the non-rehabilitable sick. Has anybody heard of a quality adjusted life year coming out of England? And they have a nice little organization called NICE, N-I-C-E, National Institute for Clinical Excellence. Well, here's the bureaucratic message of 1949. I think you could probably pull a lot of these words out of H.R. 3200. "It is the duty of the doctor, through advice and effort, conscientiously and to his best ability, to assist his helper, the person entrusted to his care, in the maintenance, improvement, and reestablishment of his vitality, physical efficiency, and health. The accomplishment of this duty is a public task." And the German physicians fell for that, and the Dutch physicians resisted. Well, we talk about morality in politics and medicine, and we hear all the people say, well, you can't legislate morality. Really? In 1963, the Supreme Court took prayer out of the schools, and in 1973, they ruled in Roe v. Wade, they legislated immorality. So let us examine ourselves. Let us be sure that we make moral decisions. Let us not lose what our founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to give us. It starts with you and me. Let us humbly pray that God will revive us first. Ephesians 6:10 through 18 tells us to be strong in the Lord, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, "If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn away from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and heal their land." Won't you join me today in pledging our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor to preserve this great land for our children and our children's children? This is war. We must win. Thank you.